A lovely day at Grace Bay.
I've got
Big hello from the West Indies. This is Graham Hall with an update with you. This is the first video that I'll be making in a series of videos and podcasts about our journey to the British West Indies, to Providenciales. I'm actually reporting from school today. I'm at work. I work in a government school in the British West Indies in a country called Providenciales. And today I wanted to just talk to you about the journey, about where we started and where we began and why I'm here. You may well have seen, and thought about moving abroad or moving to a warmer climate. I've had that thought for many years. For myself, I remember being a very young lad and speaking to my grandma. We were watching a film years and years ago. We were watching Jaws 4, a terrible film with Michael Caine, my grandma said, look, this place is amazing. I'm never going to get a chance to go. Perhaps one day you'll get a chance to go. One of you boys, me and my brother and my cousins. And I looked at it and thought, God, it does look nice, And we're from a really cold climate in the UK. It's cold, almost nearly all of the year. Very rare you get warm days. And over the years, I've done some travelling. I like to go abroad for my holidays every year. I'm happier in the sun. So decided some years ago that I would apply for jobs in the Caribbean because it's somewhere I wanted to go. So I've been trying for a number of years, probably 12, 13 years to no avail. And each year I apply in the UK. When I was down at work and I was cold in the winter, I'd apply for jobs abroad in the Caribbean. So that was where things started. My wife will be joining us for some videos as well, and she'll explain the reasons why she wanted to come here as well. We do have two children. We have a child who is 15 years old and a child who is 7 years old. So, in terms of making the jump, we have to think about our children as well. Sometimes it can be a lot easier if you're on your own to go anywhere in the world, and it is harder with children, but we haven't wanted to give up on our dream of living in a warmer climate. Therefore, we have had to make some sacrifices at home, and we have had to really think about what we were doing to get to the island here in terms of education for our children. So I'll explain the situation. I was employed first. I applied for a job in the Turks and Caicos Islands in Providenciales in a government school, not a private school, so working for a government school back in Christmas 2022. So really cold month. I got home from work one night and I just applied for a job on CaribbeanJobs.com. So if you're looking for work across here, CaribbeanJobs.com is where I found this work. And I found a school and I applied for it. And I applied for 3 or 4 different schools across the Caribbean. I didn't hear anything for a number of months. And then late May, I got an email calling me for an interview. And I sat an interview at the end of May, close to, I believe, Charlie's coronation. I think it was the weekend before. It was a bank holiday Monday. Spent the whole weekend doing lots and lots of revision for the interview, and it was quite a basic interview, to be honest. It's quite a basic interview. What would I do with behaviour? Not questions that I thought I was going to be asked. I did over prepare. The interview lasted online for about an hour and a half. At the end of the interview, I think 2 days later, I sent a thank you email, and I awaited a response. And it took around 3 weeks before I got a response where I was successful, which was fantastic. I was absolutely over the moon. This is something I've always wanted to do, and I was just ecstatic. I was at work at the time. I remember packing up work quite quickly, going to Waitrose, buying a big bottle of champagne and some flowers for my wife. I got home and she couldn't believe it, and that's where the party began to start, really. So from there. So after the celebrations had sort of settled down after a few days, I started to do a bit of research, because really I hadn't really looked about anything about Turks and Caicos, about Providenciales, about the island, about the school, about anything really. And I started to figure out quite quickly that it's a very expensive place to live. That's the first thing you need to know about coming here. You need to be, if you're going to come here, you need to have a very well paid job. It is tax-free salary, but you've got to be expecting things to be 3 or 4 times as expensive as they are in the UK. And that includes rent. So rental properties here you can't buy, so you'd have to rent if you were coming as a British citizen. Therefore, quite quickly we had to establish that my wife would need to find work as well. And my wife spent some time, I spent a lot of time on the internet trying to find through Facebook, trying to find expats who lived here on the island. And I was very lucky to find a gentleman who was a teacher, who explained to me that there are a very big shortage of teachers across the island in private and public schools, but private especially. And he put me in touch with a private school for my wife, and my wife got in contact with the school, and a week later she interviewed for a position and is working there as a support teacher or a support assistant teacher. So she was able to secure a job quite quickly as well, which was really good, because without the salaries there was no way we would be able to even afford to live and to come here. So that was helpful, and then we started to make some preparations to come. So I'll do an entire other video about what you need to prepare and what you need to bring, because you really do need to prepare if you're coming to live here, especially if you're going to work in a school. The government schools are very under-resourced, and you will need to bring a lot of your own things, and you don't get a massive allowance, obviously. So if you're coming with children, you're coming with your wife, your children, it can be, you know, by the time you've got your bags and your things for your own personal effects, then, you know, it's very difficult to bring things over here. There is an allowance, and I'll talk about that in another video. So yeah, after we'd made plans, we started to try and search for housing. Now it operates very, very differently to the UK over here. Literally, people often turn up and secure an apartment when they arrive. I wasn't happy doing that, because I'm coming with a wife and 2 children. So I explained that to that school head teacher that I'd been speaking with, and said that, you know, I wasn't comfortable in giving up a life in the UK, especially a comfortable life where we had left behind 2 very well paid jobs, and we were very comfortable, a nice house, to take 2 children the other side of the world and have nowhere to stay when we arrive. You know, that just isn't, you know, wouldn't work for me. So I spoke to the head teacher, who did a little bit of work for me, and I was able to find a landlord who the rent was quite was affordable, and I was able to secure a place to live, which again I will explain to you in another video, because the process of doing that in itself is a very, very challenging process. And it's not very, if you are a very organised person and are used to doing things with the UK system, where we, you know, things are very much done through solicitors, it doesn't work like that over here. You know, we were told find a place on Facebook, and we were like, wow, that's, you know, that's really, really bizarre that's the way it is, but it just is. That's the way things are done over here. A lot of people arrive, a lot of Jamaican teachers arrive with nowhere to live, and they're put up in accommodation straight away. But obviously my situation a bit different, coming with 2 children, wife, 2 children, did not want to be homeless on arrival. So we managed to secure a place to live that was affordable, just affordable, because we decided to, in the UK, to we have, and at this present time, we are paying our mortgage. We have not yet rented our house out in the UK. I'm on a 6 months probation here, so is my wife. Therefore, we wanted to make sure that it was the right fit, because if it wasn't the right fit, then we would need to come home, and I would need to come home to a property. Therefore, I haven't rented my house out at home. So in terms financially, we are struggling. You know, I can't beat around the bush with that. It's going to be a struggle. You know, we're having to eat very basic. We're having to budget. We're having to think about our money, and I'll do some separate videos on that as well. What you should budget for. You need to be able to, if you're coming over here and you're not a huge salaried job like a GP, you really do need to be able to budget and be sensible with your money, because your money will disappear quickly, and you need to come with an amount of money as well, which I'll talk to you about in a separate video. You cannot come here with a zero bank balance. Basically, you need to have some sort of financial backing before you come. You need to have a slush fund for sure. Without any of that, it won't be possible at all. So it's really important to know that you will need some substantial funds before you arrive. So that's really it. So that's the first in a series of videos. I'm sorry that I'm not in a very exotic location. I'm actually in my classroom, so you can see my students are due in tomorrow, so I'm due to see my students for the first time tomorrow. I'll be running some videos as well for teachers about how students behave over here, what the levels are like over here, so that people can really start to think about if they want to make the jump as a teacher, whether it's worth a while. A lot of work to be done here. It's a great school, fantastic school, really enjoying it so far. Thank you for listening. It's been a very short video. I need to go home to get something to eat, but if you have any questions, please drop a comment in the comment section below, and I will try and get back to you. I'll try and read all the comments, and I can give you some tips and some feedback, and and some other information as you may need it. Okay, so signing off from the West Indies. Take care everyone, and see you in the next video.